I'm Alicia.
And I'm Maddie.
And welcome to the Fangirl Diaries, a podcast where we talk about our obsessions,
Reminisce about our teen icons,
and explore the books, movies, and shows that made us the incredibly nerdy 30-somethings that we now are. Hello, Maddie.
Hey, Alicia.
It feels very appropriate that we are recording another one of our Buffy special episodes by candlelight.
Oh, yeah, it's quite late in the evening.
It's quite Halloween-y.
Yeah, we've kind of come into October. We're enjoying or not enjoying the dark evenings.
Do you know, actually, we should have discussed this before. We are coming up on a 1-year anniversary of this podcast.
Oh, when is that? Do you remember?
No.
Soon.
I feel like it's like around October or November or something, because it was when we were doing the Fourth Wing Iron Flame specials, the double. There was one where you and I talk about like we're having to wear slippers and socks because suddenly it's cold, and it feels like that is now.
I'm going to find it.
Are you looking this up now?
I'm looking it up. Oh,
yeah.
My internet's too slow.
But we've never recorded in semi-darkness with candles before.
It's very atmospheric.
And we didn't even do it deliberately. It's just that we've had some dinner and I can't be bothered to get back up and turn the lights on. And it is very atmospheric. And it's very appropriate to Buffy.
Buffy season 4.
Buffy season 4.
Season by season again.
I'm enjoying these rewatches so much.
Yeah, and I have to confess at this point that we may just be talking about season 4, but after how good season 4 was, I have completely smashed through also the whole of season 5 in like a matter of just a couple of weeks. Like I'm so far ahead.
And then you showed up here today and you've already watched a bit of season 6.
Oh yeah. But it's just because these episodes are so good that I just got completely addicted.
I'm so glad, because the main reason we are doing these Buffy specials is because I've been banging on for years, and you agree, that Buffy is a complete masterpiece.
It is.
And that it is possible to enjoy these like 25 years or whatever we are, something like that, after their release.
Yeah.
And that they are still like delicious content that... You're right, I'm now entering into season 5. You've completely galloped ahead. I text you like, where are you on? And you were like, I finished. It's like, wait, we haven't even talked about season 4. But that is what happens. And now that I'm in season 5, I'm just like, oh God, yeah, we're in the flow. And I know that one's a big favourite of ours.
I know, but season 4 creates the foundation for season 5, I think, in a really good way. And so we kind of we talked about in the last episode that they really ended that season with a sense of finality and with like literally and kind of metaphorically blowing up the whole of like their previous life.
This is the end of season 3.
The end of the previous season. Yeah. And so going into season 4, we know it has to be new because the school's gone. They're going off to university, college. And we've talked about these tricky moments of change in a series like this where you've got to change location. Often it's around going from school to university and how do you do that transition? And they really did it by being yep, this is you got to start again. It's done really well, I think.
I agree. We should frame this by saying this episode is really us defending season 4. That doesn't necessarily always rank so highly when the Buffy seasons are put in order. That maybe is also just because so many of them are so good. That it's less like a problem with season 4 and more just the very high quality of some of the others.
Yeah, and
but you and I both like it.
Yeah, I don't think that I would have known that there were some people that think season 4 is not as good. I wouldn't have known that.
No, I'm into it as well. I was like, why are people hating on season 4? But you're spot on. We have talked about on 2 previous episodes, notably the OC and Gossip Girl.
Yeah.
2 other things that we both loved, where that transition from high school to college basically broke the show.
Yeah. And it does not do that here.
No, it doesn't.
Buffy continues to grow and be great from here on, and therefore season 4 did something right.
Totally.
Yeah.
And watching it again, I remember how quality season 4 is, and I'm surprised that other shows didn't use it as a blueprint for how to do that transition kind of right.
Yeah.
And in fact, when you look at the 7 seasons of Buffy, a heavier percentage of the show sits after the high school years than in them.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Okay, so let's go through why we think it works. So what should we start with, Maddie? What do we think season 4 gets right?
I think because we're moving into a new place and a new kind of stage of life, we also meet new characters, which we can go through the various different new characters and what we like or don't like about them. But in general, it really manages to like continue to have a really great ensemble cast. Sometimes adding characters to an ensemble cast can be a really, really difficult thing. And I think it really does that right and creates like individual relationships, but also like a group dynamic that continues to really work.
Yeah.
Which is really nice. But it also doesn't like give up on the storylines from previously. Like we have really long running character development with like Oz for the first half of the season, who, although doesn't end up being part of the whole season, that thread is still there and it's a character that we care about. Similarly, like Faith comes back. It's like they do the characters that we already know and love well, but also manage to introduce new people, which really works.
The positioning of characters sort of on or off the chessboard in Buffy, I think, is one of its great strategic strengths. It's always really well balanced, and it's a little bit like a cocktail that they have to get right. If you take out some ingredients, they've got to replace them. And we have permanently removed from this point on, give or take a couple of crossover episodes, Angel is gone.
Yeah.
Cordy is gone.
Yeah.
These are 2 massive gaps now it's a gap in the Scooby Gang. It is a relationship for Xander to have replaced. And it is Buffy's main romantic lead. And we're going to talk about those 2 in the thermometer section.
Yeah.
The replacement kind of romantic things.
Although it does also feel like not just that those 2 get replaced, but that the group grows in general. I remember, I think it's that one episode where Oz has gone and then he comes back and he comes into this room where the whole group is gathered in order to like, I don't know, discuss some terrible
it's like
thing
a
that's
Scooby
happening,
meeting.
a Scooby meeting. Yeah. And it's like you've got Buffy and Riley, you've got Xander and Anya, you've got Willow and Tara, you've got Giles, and I think even maybe Giles is like on and off again girlfriend that's around that season. And it's like, this group is huge now. And Oz is like kind of walks into this like, what? Who are all these people?
We might even have at that point Spike tied to a chair.
Spike's probably there. Yes, definitely there.
You're right. The people that it brings back off the bench in this season are also so well chosen. So we have already listed that, Faith reappears, and we'll go into that in some more detail. Maybe a good one to start with then is Spike, because this season 4 is when he becomes a permanent character fixture.
Yes,
which he hasn't been since season 2.
They do that in an interesting way, which it fits in with the whole arc of the narrative of the season, but also like gives us a reason for Spike to be around more and more. Like he can't just continue to be a vampire that can only be around, being evil, and like he would never be an interesting enough character if he stayed completely evil and continuing to just be destructive the whole time.
No, it doesn't work.
They have to come up with something, but we don't want him to just be another version of Angel.
Nope.
Like he can't be like, oh, now Spike's got a soul. That would be out of character for Spike and not interesting. So I like the way that they use this idea of the scientific research that's going on in the initiative, which we definitely are going to get into, of him having this chip that kind of it controls his worst instincts. Basically, he can't physically harm a human without it causing himself extreme pain. So
we get a lot of comedy from that.
We get a lot of comedy, but it also means that we don't lose the fact that underneath it all, Spike is still really like a bad guy. But yet he can't hurt anyone, so therefore he can be around more. It's like it allows him to be a part of the group in a way that something else might not have allowed him to.
To me, when I rewatched season 4, I thought, and this is as like a long-term Spike devotee, I always forget that it is his like almost experimental transitional season where the writers are trying to figure out. They've agreed to have James Masters back on the show. It's so the right decision. He is so energizing to the show. We talked about that a little bit last time where he briefly comes back in season 3.
Yeah.
And everyone's like, oh, thank God.
Yeah.
This injection of energy. But they haven't quite 100% worked out what to do with him yet.
They mostly use him for humour in season 4.
And it works because he's funny.
Yes.
You're right. The concept of the chip is very clever.
Yeah.
And allows him to be, like they use this term, he's sort of neutered as a vampire.
Yeah.
And they embarrass him about this. But there is a lot of him sort of running around almost in slapstick comedy fashion, semi on fire. He's under blankets a lot.
Yeah.
And even the show makes fun of itself that we'll have a whole episode where Spike appears to be almost in the Scooby Gang, like an honorary Scooby. And the next episode he'll be like, oh, you guys forget. I hate you guys.
Yeah.
You know? Or Buffy's in peril and he's like, yeah, get her.
But it does allow you to have a bit more of an understanding of who he is and a bit of sympathy for him.
Definitely.
You start to just actually be like, oh, okay, no, I get where he's coming from, even though he's a bad guy. You kind of feel a bit more of human emotion from him and also like towards him.
Mm-hmm. Yes, his likability factor is undeniable.
Yeah.
And the characters go on the same journey that the viewer does, because very often you catch Giles like hanging out and watching Passions with Spike.
Yeah.
Or he has banter with Xander. They're briefly roommates for like 5 minutes in the basement.
Yeah.
So,
although I'm not sure Xander ever really likes him.
No, but sometimes the characters have an exchange with Spike where they can't help some sort of shared interest pops up. Like in the episode where Giles is turned into a demon, he enlists Spike's help and they kind of drive the car together.
Yeah.
And it's these two Brits.
Yeah.
Or pretend Brits in James Masters' case, driving around. But yeah, Spike is the big one who comes back in. I also think it really works to have Faith wake up briefly in the sort of in the middle of the season. It's normally in the middle of a season that Buffy as a show brings someone off the bench. It was how Spike was used in season 3.
Yeah.
And it's where we hit that midpoint often, where the season just needs like a little shot in the arm.
And you're not going to have the big bad, coming up yet. Or if they are, they're only being hinted at. It's more, you need a kind of a middle villain for a little while.
Yes, you do. You need someone to come in, because normally by mid-season, a lot of the storylines have hit their stride. So, for example, in season 4, we have Buffy at this point in a couple with Riley.
Yeah.
We have, I think Willow and Tara are together by this point. And it takes Faith to come back in to cause a real rupture in Buffy and Riley's relationship. But You're right, to also provide a temporary sense of threat, because we've not yet got to the big showdown at the end of the season.
Yeah, I think I always thought it was a bit strange that Faith didn't die at the end of season 3 and that she was left in a coma. And I guess I tend to think that like when TV shows leave someone in this kind of, oh, they're almost dead, but they're not dead. You kind of know they're going to come back, right?
Oh,
it leaves it so that like they have to come back at some point. They couldn't just be left like that forever. But actually, in this case, they resolved it like reasonably quickly, which I think is good. It didn't become like Faith is the new big bad of the whole next few seasons. It was more just let's genuinely resolve the relationship conflict between Buffy and Faith, which is probably the most interesting thing about them.
And Faith, like Spike, is too likable to come back as in spite of herself. Although just on that, when you were saying, as a complete side note, about, in TV shows where if you don't see someone killed off, but do you remember, that immediately reminded me, you and I were so convinced in Game of Thrones that when we don't see Brienne kill Stannis, do you remember you and I were like, well, he's alive.
He's obviously going to
He's obviously alive. Like, the end is going to be that Stannis reappears. I was like utterly convinced. And no, that's not what happens.
Yeah, but I came up with a lot of Game of Thrones theories that never came to light. So.
It's true, and we will cover this separately. But as you were saying that, I thought there's one major exception. Okay, and Eliza Dushku is, again, just sort of screen gold. So it's wonderful when she comes back in, and it generates one of my favourite episodes, which we were chatting about earlier, which is effectively, it's a body swap concept. And sometimes Buffy does these high concept episodes where I like them because they remind me how versatile and talented the actual actors are.
Yeah, it's true.
We had a little bit of a chat about this a couple of seasons ago, where it's not a body swap episode, but Giles and Joyce become their teenage selves. Yes. And we were like, they're actually really good actors.
And the one where Willow has her vampire self come across from a different dimension.
Yes, that's another one. Yeah, there's a bunch of these, actually, where it allows the actors to step out of what's otherwise become a very established character at that point.
Yeah.
And I don't think I had realised how many established kind of character traits Faith and Buffy had until Eliza Dushku and Sarah Michelle Gellar have to play each other.
Yeah.
Some of the best acting from each of them.
Yeah.
They really have nailed an impression of the other one. It's
and not
quite
just
frightening.
And not just always an impression of the other one. Often Sarah Michelle Gellar is playing Faith pretending to be Buffy.
Yes.
Which is like another layer on top.
Yes, you have to mentally unpick the layers of that episode. Yeah. That's right. That's right. She is impersonating Buffy throughout, which is really, really very strange. Okay. Another thing that I think works really well about season 4, this is a general point, is it doesn't change too much. It changes enough, but not too much. Mm-hmm. And things where it threatened to create a real change, it reassures you it's not going to mess around too much very quickly. So just to reel some of those off, like, I hated when they got to college and I had just assumed that Buffy would be Willow's roommate. And we have that weird episode where Buffy has that other roommate who is a demon, she's right. But very quickly it's like, no, we're not doing it to you guys. We'll obviously let them
similarly,
be
also
roommates.
like their relationship with Giles, I think, is another one that at the beginning you're like, oh, they're not going to hang out with Giles and they're not going to be the Scooby Gang. They're not going to solve things together anymore because they're off at college and he's just like at home. But no, they soon enough just start solving stuff together in his house.
Yeah, the
fine.
The Scooby Gang just relocates to his flat. Yeah. But a little bit like how season 4 is the season where I feel like Spike's character is in transition until they really figure out how to use Spike. Same thing, which is that Giles and the location of the Scooby Gang in season 4, I always forget it's the random rogue season where they hang out in Giles's flat.
Yeah.
Which then doesn't happen again because by season 5 we've got the magic shop.
Yes.
Which is
true.
Absolutely the correct replacement for the library. But he is sort of in transition as well. But you're right, this season could have like jettisoned Giles.
Could have done. And that would have been a mistake.
Exactly. But I think the strongest thing about the whole of season 4 is that, interestingly, the producers and writers decide to really utilise Alison Hannigan, who I always thought was the strongest actor.
Yeah.
And it was like somebody agreed that in the writer's room.
Yeah.
And she almost has a different kind of season from the other characters.
She's like a different personality almost. Not in like a bad way, in that when you go to university, you do change and you do find out different things about yourself. And I think that's what she does. This is the first time where she like seriously starts exploring witchcraft as like more than just a silly thing. You know, she really is like, no, this is who I am and this is what I want to try and achieve. And we always known that she's been academic, but actually her academia kind of goes a little bit to the side. Like, she still does well at university or whatever, but actually what she does is she turns herself towards the witchcraft stuff in a more serious way, and that becomes her outlet, I think.
If you were to plot every character's evolution or growth on a graph across like the scope of Buffy, poor old Xander doesn't change at all. No. His would be like a flat line.
Yeah.
If we're looking at the main three, Buffy really does develop, like her character as we get into seasons 5, 6, and 7 does evolve. But Willow's is the most evolved, and the most accelerated of that. That briefly in Restless at the end of the season, where there's that flashback to her being a sort of high school nerd. Yeah, like, it actually feels very like, oh gosh, we've moved away from that now.
Yeah, we forgot that she was nerdy. She was not really nerdy anymore. She's really found herself.
Yeah, she walks differently. They've restyled her hair, and she feels like a more of a sort of equal to Buffy in a way that previously the show had sometimes treated Willow a bit like, Buffy's nerdy friend. Yeah. Which I never liked. And this feels more equitable.
It feels more equitable, but I would say still not quite there. And I think it's that in season 5 and even into 6 is when we start seeing her as like actually equally powerful. Yeah. But this is the start of that, I think.
Yeah. But the storylines given to Willow really let Alison Hannigan do her thing. Yeah. Like, I can't bear it when Oz leaves. Yeah. And it's just a breakup storyline. Yeah. But there are times when she has conversations with him, when he actually decides to go and he's packing up the van. Mm-hmm. And she sort of tries to reason with him or stop him leaving, where I don't know how they shot that. I find it almost unwatchable. Her pain is so visible. Yeah. And it's not as if other characters in the show haven't undergone breakups. They have. Xander, Buffy. But when you give a breakup narrative to Alison Hannigan, it's like on a different level.
Yeah, it almost makes you believe her and Oz's relationship more than other relationships in the series. Yes. Because that's so good.
When Oz leaves to go and find a cure for being a werewolf, at that point I think, oh my God, I had completely misjudged how meaningful this relationship was, because we had treated it previously as a side narrative, but she's really very broken.
You believe that they were soulmates.
Yeah. And yet her recovery has to leave enough space for Tara to enter. Yeah. Who is the other strength of season 4.
Absolutely.
Good decision, Buffy.
Yeah, and I think what is so clever about the acting and the storytelling of the whole of Willow's season there is that we have time to mourn Oz, and nobody's there thinking, oh, thank God Oz is left, like, couldn't be bothered with that relationship. No, we really cared about that relationship. We're made to care about it. And yet we can also see that this like really honest relationship between Willow and Tara, which comes out of a shared interest and a shared friendship, and like just feels really natural and lovely. Throughout all of that, we're not thinking back to, oh, I wish Oz was back. They managed to make 2 really meaningful relationships happen within the space of 1 season, and for you to feel like they are both meaningful and powerful relationships, and one doesn't diminish the other, which is very true to life, right? You can have 2 or more meaningful and important relationships in your life without feeling like the one you end up at the end is like the only important one.
Yeah.
And that feels really like truthful storytelling.
Yes, it does. And in comparison to that, that's what doesn't really work for me with replacing Angel with Riley. That does feel like the show casts about for, we need a new male romantic lead for Buffy.
Yeah.
You don't get that with Willow. It feels like you said, a very natural progression for her to enter a relationship with Tara.
Yeah.
And I think, we're going to talk about it way more when we do the other seasons, but it's one of the best developed TV relationships of all time.
And it was very unlikely to have a lesbian relationship in the 90s on TV.
I think somewhere in TV trivia that their on-screen kiss is the first one on mainstream television.
But that doesn't happen till season 5.
Yeah, and it doesn't even happen until season 5.
But almost what they have in season 4 is more intimate. Mm-hmm. They have a lot of moments that are very, very charged and full of tension and sexual tension, but in a, it's not explicit, but it's in a kind of really well put together way that it's surprising to me that was aired in the 90s.
Yeah, and their relationship, I think, in season 4 has more genuine chemistry than Buffy and Riley, which becomes a bit of a problem.
Yeah.
And maybe this is a good segue into our thermometer category.
Yeah.
We had said before we started taping this that we would sit in our categories for a little bit longer, because before we started recording this, you mentioned that one of your favourite things about season 4 was the changing relationship dynamics.
Yeah.
And I was like, totally agree. I have copious notes in the thermometer section. Let's get into that section.
Well, maybe before we give our ratings on the thermometer, because we're going to want to talk about Riley, maybe we just give a bit of context around the initiative and the bigger picture of the season.
You're totally right.
Who the big bad is, because that's where Riley comes in. And I love this as a bigger storyline.
Me too.
This concept of this government initiative that's investigating the magical demons and trying to get to the scientific bottom of it is brilliant, because every other season so far, all of the antagonists have been demons, monsters, vampires, something supernatural, a ghost, whatever. This is just evil government, which is super fun, and it's different, and it gives a different look and feel to some of the stuff. And I just remember the moment when it's Riley, who we've been introduced to as just a TA, one of Buffy's tutors, assistants in her university class. And he's clearly into Buffy, and he's having a chat with his guy mates, and we think they're all just they're basically PhD students, slightly older students that do teaching, and they're all just messing about. And they're walking down, and they're just walking down the corridor, and they go outside, and then they just suddenly carry on. They're carrying on with their frat boy discussions, and suddenly they're pressing this lift button and descending into this huge government scientific facility. We had no warning.
No.
And it just suddenly takes you into this whole other world, and I absolutely love that moment. It was just your mind is immediately blown. You just thought they were these university guys, and it's no, they are the military.
Yep. I think this was because you and I like sci-fi and dystopia.
Yeah.
That as a lot of people are going to hate on the initiative as a concept and just think it's stupid.
Yeah.
And at times it is a bit.
It is, but so are all of the seasons a bit stupid occasionally.
But I agree with you. I think it's good to have a bit of a pause from some sort of uber vamp. We've had season 1, The Master, literally a big vampire. More vampires in season 2, Spike and Drew.
Yeah.
Season 3, The Mayor.
The Mayor was resurrecting the most evil demon and becoming a demon.
Yeah, he's some kind of demon, some sort of snake demon.
Yeah.
That, you're right, it is different to have something that is human. And it makes the scale of Buffy as a show feel way more confident and expansive.
Yes.
And to reflect things back at itself, because we have existed willingly in this space of this magic, the Hellmouth space for ages and ages, that it's interesting to bring in a wider concept where, the government are in on the fact that there's vampires and demons. And,
Yeah.
But it makes it really problematic that, like, from very early on when they capture Spike, we end up feeling bad for some of the demons.
Yes.
You know, they're like experimenting on the demons. And I remember thinking, hey, like, which is exactly how you're supposed to feel.
Yeah.
But this season of Buffy also, this is because it clearly has an elevated budget.
Yeah.
So you're right, when Riley and his friends descend into the initiative, I'm like, Buffy has rented out a bigger studio space for this. Whoa. It's massive.
You know what I have to tell you is one of my theories of a storyline that I was convinced was going to happen, even though I have watched all this before, but I had, like, in my brain convinced myself that this storyline was going to happen, which is I was convinced that the initiative were going to want to capture Buffy and, like, experiment on her.
Yes.
Because she's not human only. She is supernatural in herself. So I was convinced that the, like, existential threat was going to be, like, Riley battling against Professor Walsh to decide whether, like, you know, they should bring in Buffy or whether he was going to be on Buffy's side or the initiative side, which kind of happened a little bit, but that didn't end up being the... Anyway, that was my theory for what they should have done.
I'm so surprised they didn't use that.
Yeah.
You're right, that does seem like a kind of easy win. They still managed to create the tension between Buffy and Riley because they briefly have Buffy join the initiative. That is the only part where I start to dislike it because I'm such a fan of the Buffy, Giles, Scooby dynamic. And we're made to see the initiative as these sort of, these kind of stiffs who are taking orders and saying, yes, sir, and all of this. And when Buffy joins them, she's got a schedule and she's got a beeper. And I think, I don't like this.
Yeah.
Why has Buffy got a beeper?
It doesn't last that long.
No, it doesn't. But that's a bit where I think they quite rightly tried that and then dismissed it.
All right, let's move on then. Now we know who Riley is.
Okay.
Shall we move on to our thermometer?
Yes, and there is a lot of content in here.
The thermometer for this season?
So overall, it is so difficult because normally when we do a thermometer section or a thermometer rating, we're focusing on, like, a film or a book or a TV show where there's either one main relationship or, like, two. So when we did The Notebook last time, the thermometer rating pertains to, like, how hot the main relationship is.
Yeah.
With Buffy, because the cast is so expansive here, like, I want to give sort of, you know, the whole Buffy Riley thing a really tepid thermometer rating. But then this is the season where we introduce Willow and Tara.
Yeah.
So it ends up for me sort of leveling out somewhere around like a 65 or a 70.
Yeah, I was going to say like 60. I don't think this season is particularly hot.
No.
Apart from Willow and Tara are.
Yeah.
They do have their moments. But even still, it feels more... Like, yeah, as a general, as a season, it doesn't feel overly... Like, whereas when they had Angel, the whole point of the season was the relationship and the tension.
Yes.
That's not the point of this season.
No, it's not a sexy season in the way that, like, season 2 absolutely was, or some of the ones we're going to get to absolutely are. And yet, I wonder if that is the flaw we've identified, because this is the season that is supposed to be the Buffy relationship with Riley. And yet, you and I are like, oh yeah.
But I guess to defend the Riley relationship...
Okay, try and defend it for me.
I think
I hate it.
The point is that she wanted a normal guy.
Yeah.
The point is she came away from Angel with, like, this whole, you know, she just wants to find somebody who's not going to cause her, like, eternal, you know, torment. She just wants to find a normal guy. And right at the beginning of the season, she tries to find a normal guy. Turns out that normal guy wasn't very nice. And
Parker.
You know, Parker, and she has to kind of like get over that. But she continues to just want like a regular relationship. And she's actually frustrated when she finds out that Riley is more than just a regular guy, because what she wanted was just a regular guy. And so it's never going to be the height of like sexual tension, because what she's looking for is something really stable and something really like, and he is that. He is loyal and dedicated, and he really likes her. And she thinks what she wants is just somebody loyal and dedicated who really likes her and is kind of normal.
On paper, I would approve the Buffy-Riley relationship. And you've described it in the way that, like, Joyce likes Riley for all of these reasons, for example. And if you were someone who had Buffy's best interests at heart, you would agree that Riley is a lovely choice. But I don't have Buffy's best interests at heart. I like juicy television. and so for me, I'm always just underwhelmed by Riley. And again, it feels like the show tried him out for this season.
Yeah.
And then really realizes by season 4 that we're going to get more drama by season 5 that we're going to get more interest by getting rid of him.
Yeah.
But we'll come there when we talk about the next season.
I don't think anyone is going away from season 4 thinking that Buffy and Riley will be together forever. No way. You think temporary respite from the passion of Angel. Yeah.
And that was such a tumultuous relationship that you're right, that Buffy kind of needed to regain her footing a little bit.
She needs to have like a normal relationship.
She does. And you briefly mentioned, and I don't want to skip past him because I think it is a clever moment from the show, the very brief use of Parker.
Yeah.
Who is one of the, again, pauses from anything supernatural.
Yeah.
You're almost tempted to think, oh yeah, maybe he's a vampire or something. He's not. This is Buffy sitting in the human space as a show and showing that, like, even the Slayer, who's our, like, big heroine, makes a wrong choice and gets kind of screwed over by a guy, and he doesn't call her.
Yeah.
And just gets like,
it's just like
regular
a really
college heartbreak.
Yes, yeah, it's like really
it's
boring,
so normal
basic stuff. Yeah.
It's so mundane.
Yeah.
And you're so lulled by the show into thinking, aha, but I bet he's actually a werewolf.
You're like, no.
But it's clever
it's
enough to play with you.
Like sleeping around.
Yeah, but it really hurts Buffy because she didn't expect that, and it's not a foe that she can conquer, and she can't sort of beat him up to make it level or something. She can't deal with it in the way that she's used to dealing with stuff.
Well, that's part of how they deal with the transition to college age is by having Buffy not quite comfortable in that space for quite a few of the first few episodes, quite a while, where she doesn't feel like she's in her natural element. And this is all from like a really just regular human standpoint. She's like, she just doesn't quite fit in yet. She doesn't know. Whereas at the school, she kind of had eventually settled into her group. She gets there and like Oz already knows all the people there because he's older and he's like sort of in the band, and Willow just fits in with them immediately. And she's just kind of there like, I don't quite know what I'm doing. And I think that helps us to transition into that different like space, because she does take a little while to get into it. Yeah,
that's so true, that Buffy going to college feels like something that she and we acclimatise to at the same time. Yeah. Although, side note, I think I mentioned this last episode, I always find the transition to UC Sunnydale so hilarious, because I'm literally like, where has this college been?
I know. And
the entire time.
There's like whole groups of vampires that only hang out at the university. Like, why was she not going after them before?
No, to my mind, the geography of Sunnydale before was basically like the high school.
A small town.
And some houses.
Yeah, like a high street.
There was a high street, yeah. But like, that's it.
A couple of streets of suburbs and a school.
And a school.
Oh, and like a mayor's office.
Exactly.
One council building.
And then suddenly the campus of UC Sunnydale, which I believe a lot of it was shot at like USC, looks bigger and more impressive than basically all of the rest of Sunnydale.
Like a state university. Yeah. It's huge.
Like, where has this been the whole time? Anyway, just before we come out of the thermometer section, one of the things that I always like about season 4 is when and Buffy is so good as a show overall of doing this, is when it spots something that it's going to use later. And I am convinced, and I know I'm biased on this, that it spots that it's much more interesting if you're going to put Buffy and Spike in more of a consistent space, which it's going to do in season 5 onwards.
Yeah.
Because there are a couple of episodes where their interactions are more charged and more interesting than, again, Buffy's dialogue with Riley. From when Giles has got Spike tied up in the bath, you know, when they're trying to figure out whether the chip has really kind of neutralized him or not. And they have that great exchange where Buffy is taunting him because he can't bite her. Yeah. And she's doing like, look at my poor neck. and Giles is like, those two. Oh my God. But they have a witty banter and a frisson that I think the writers thought. And then of course we have Something Blue that actually puts them together briefly. Yes. And I thought, oh, this is so much more watchable than Riley.
And it's played for laughs, as we said. Like,
it is.
Like everything is in with Spike this season. But yeah, no, it's quite fun. And you do think, oh, okay. Yeah. I kind of like this.
Yeah, I could watch this for longer. Yeah, if this became a focus of a season, I might watch that.
Yeah. But if we're talking on the thermometer level, the only relationship that really like hits the thermometer at all is Willow and Tara. And I think we're probably going to talk about Hush in a minute, but I think it is that episode where they first essentially get together. And I think they just touch hands or they hold hands is like the moment when you first really realise that they are together. And it's like unbelievable how much tension and kind of emotion there is in just them like holding hands together.
Yeah. And
it's so impressive.
And at the same time, because you're right, we're going to get to Hush in a sec, the show decides to exit Oz through quite a passionate narrative. Like one of the relatively sexy bits is like him and Veronica. And they both they kind of give in to their werewolf nature.
Yeah, true.
And when I watch that episode, I think, oh God, yeah, do you know what? We've not seen him interact with Willow in quite this way.
Yeah.
And he and Veronica do make sense as a pairing in a way that you almost end up agreeing with her and thinking, yeah, God, I can see the attraction between these two people.
Yeah.
And so it's an odd way to have somebody exit a show and to orchestrate a breakup. But that is quite another hot moment of the show.
Yeah, true.
The Oz-Veronica relationship. So that is now going to take us into... We're going to our badass category. I think it's probably worth us saying we will retire the obsession fuel category. Yeah, really until we get to like season 7 and we wrap everything up, because otherwise it's just us every episode being like, we love it, everybody loves it, it was so great. So we will kind of bring things to a close with our badass section. And here again, the rating kind of goes without saying, right? Like, how badass is Buffy?
So badass.
So badass.
I also am going to defend the initiative again. I think the initiative stuff is kind of badass in like a different way that we haven't seen before from Buffy, and I enjoy it. Adam is this like crazy mutant Frankenstein type creature where the initiative has essentially been trying to like create the ultimate fighting machine by taking robot stuff mixed with demon stuff mixed with vampire stuff mixed with human stuff, and like it's kind of ridiculous, but a lot of Frankenstein type stories are ridiculous, and he's kind of a fun villain in a kind of badass way. Like he is way more powerful than anyone we've seen up until this point. And I quite enjoy I enjoy the badassness of the military stuff mixed with the badass stuff of Adam. I think it's quite a good villain.
Well, the initiative is sort of Buffy with budget, and I don't mean as in like the show has a budget, as in like these are also demon hunters, but they've got like guns and laser weapons and
like coordinating on walkie-talkies.
Yes, I think actually Spike even says that at one point. He says, because he thinks when he's initially captured by the initiative that Buffy is behind it. Yeah. And he says something like, I knew it was only a matter of time before that bitch got some budget. He thinks it's her. Yeah. So I like that too. It feels expansive, and they do get some really cool kind of accessories at a certain point. And we have the incredibly badass fight with whenever you bring Faith back in.
Yeah, also badass.
The action content is very, very high. And it goes without saying that, you know, almost every episode in Buffy has some sort of stunts, and there are some very cool monsters, as always, in the show. Yeah. But we really want to talk about, in the badass section, how badass Hush is as an episode.
Yeah.
And we mean this here in terms of like quality of episode, but also its baddies are some of the scariest in all of Buffy, which is the Gentleman.
Yeah, I think this episode is like, I mean, I don't think it's controversial to say, like, one of the best episodes of Buffy ever.
That the general consensus on the internet agrees with you.
Good, I'm glad.
Yes.
No, I remembered this episode well, but also when it turned on and I saw the name Hush, I was like, oh shit, I wasn't expecting this, like, now.
Yeah, like, I'm not ready.
I'm not ready. Yeah. Like, oh no.
Yeah. Were you watching it at night or anything?
No.
Oh,
weirdly, I was watching it first thing in the morning whilst walking on my walking treadmill.
Oh yeah, because you text me like, oh my god, it's Hush next.
Yeah. It's like, the only way for me to get through these episodes quickly enough is while I'm doing exercise. But this is slightly strange. But actually, it worked out quite well. So the concept of the episode is that they all lose their voices. So the gentlemen steal the voices of everyone. So 90% of the episode is in complete silence, at least from the characters speaking, but with a lot of atmospheric sound and music to make this kind of, this really, really terrifying situation where you can be running away from these creatures and desperately trying to get people's attention, but you can't scream, you can't, like, nobody can hear that you need help, and like imagine that kind of that situation. It's really scary.
This episode is a complete stroke of genius to my mind. It's a little bit like a mini movie. It is in and of itself a kind of high concept episode. I think it's a written and directed by Joss Whedon episode.
Yeah.
And it feels like it has been given, like you already mentioned the music. I messaged you when we were both watching it roughly at the same time saying, it feels like a score was created just for this. The whole episode has aspects of, like, it's quite Tim Burton-esque.
It is Tim Burton-esque.
But the score sounds like Danny Elfman.
Yeah.
So you're watching this and it feels very kind of Nightmare on Elm... Or not Nightmare on Elm Street. What's it called? The Tim Burton
Nightmare Before Christmas.
Thank you. Nightmare Before Christmas. And with the way that it's shot with the music... I always feel like we've been slightly elevated out of a television show and we're in a mini movie.
It feels like a gothic horror type style.
Yeah.
Which normally you would really associate with vampire movies and vampire style things. But actually Buffy always had a very different style. Buffy never felt like gothic vampires ever.
No, it feels like the OC with vampires.
Yeah. And
even they're in halter-neck tops.
Yeah, and the vampires, they have their like scrunchy faces or whatever. And actually the gentlemen look much more like they come out of a gothic horror movie or novel than even like the vampires do normally.
Yeah, they do. And they are some of the show's, I think, genuinely scariest villains. And they're a monster of the week in that they never return.
Come back, no.
But they are some of the least forgettable. Like whenever I rewatch Buffy, I'm thinking, like, oh yeah, what's this week's monster? Oh god, yeah, I would never have remembered that. But the gentlemen, in the way that they float, they don't walk, they fly, and they're accompanied by those sort of galumphing madmen,
like monkeyish type movements and stuff. Yeah,
and they cut out and steal people's hearts. It's so terrifying. This was actually one of the very, very, very first Buffy episodes I ever saw.
Really?
It must have been about 8 or 9. I saw it in primary school.
Gosh.
It was one of the ones that Freya had on video at her house that got put on, and I remember thinking, oh my God, I wish I hadn't watched whatever that was.
Yeah.
It was really frightening, and it was this episode. But watching it as an adult, it is also one of the episodes that has the highest comedy value. There is just moments in this episode that I think are some of the best writing on Buffy, from before when they lose their voices to the incredible sort of pastiche of like Giles does the projector show.
Yes, to try and explain what he thinks going on.
To try and explain the demons. And you get all of the characters making these comedy hand gestures, include like Spike's involved as well. And so it pushes every emotion to a heightened state. Everything that was funny gets funnier. Everything that was romantic gets more romantic, as you said, with sort of anything that starts to happen with terror. Although it's introduced in this episode.
They
this
have
is
to
the start.
because they have to communicate
Silently.
It makes everything more intense.
Yeah, it's the episode in which Xander realizes he actually does like Anya, and that this isn't a sort of weird kind of side fascination that he had. We have the moment where Xander thinks Spike has fed off of Anya, and he launches himself at Spike. It's all comedy. It's all a misunderstanding. But this moment of everybody not being able to communicate gives everybody in the show almost like the greatest clarity.
Yeah.
And it's such a brilliant episode that we thought it needed its own discussion.
Yeah, and I have to say, I just always love a concept episode.
Me too.
Just always do. And it reminded me of things like Supernatural, where all of my favourite episodes are the bizarre concept episodes.
Yeah, that's right, because it really feels like a sense of like proper artistry is really applied there.
Yeah.
But that's always doubly good if it's layered with like character growth and character development. And Buffy is so good at doing that as a show.
So what are we excited about for season 5, which I definitely have not already watched all the way through of in about 2 weeks?
Oh my God. You've got to kind of take yourself back to that space of, well, you started by saying this. Something in season 4 just meant that you just like immediately went on.
I had to keep watching.
Yeah. What was that?
I don't know. I just think the quality of the episodes is just higher in season 4, even than season 3, and definitely more than seasons 2 and 1. And that has just increased and continued to increase. And I just got addicted.
Yeah. Which is interesting because I think that the end of season 4 is probably the weakest part, which is we get that weird dream episode, Restless.
Yeah.
And it's not clear when I rewatch it, I think, we've not really ended on a major cliffhanger. We've not ended on a big fight. We've not, this isn't Buffy killing Angel and sending him to hell, and you think, oh my God, I need to watch on.
Or Faith ending up in a coma and what's
Faith
going to happen next.
Yeah.
No.
And yet you're completely right. We have taken the bait.
Yeah.
And want to continue. I think that it's just put characters in. You talked about a more expansive Scooby Gang, where you think, I want more.
I want to know what happens next.
I want more. I want to know what's going to happen with Willow and Tara. I want to know what is going to happen with, like, is Giles going to regain his footing as Buffy's watcher? I always really care about that. Yeah. Like, is that going to restabilize? I can't even remember where Spike is at the end of season 4, but
he's just got the chip still.
He's around. Has he got his crypt yet? I don't know.
Has
he got a crypt?
Maybe, yes. I think, we do want to know, like, is Spike going to stay chipped the whole time? Because he tries to get it out multiple times.
Yes, that's right. Is he going to win that personal battle?
Yeah.
And what is going to happen with Buffy and Riley's relationship? Because they have only, we forget, have only been together for barely a season. But actually, by the time we reach the end of season 4, they've already had sort of 2 State of the Nation fights.
Yeah.
Or there's already been discussion about...
They're not quite right.
They're not quite right. That there's something about wanting to see a relationship fall apart, bizarrely, that makes me want to go into season 5 and see what happens.
Maybe it's because all of these threads are still open.
Yes.
And we want to carry them on.
Yes, we do. And we will do that next time.
Very soon.
Very soon. You've been listening to the Fangirl Diaries. Follow us on Instagram at Fangirl Diaries Pod.
And do share us with any of your friends that you think might enjoy the podcast, and rate or review us on Spotify or Apple Music.